Committee. Just to let you know before we start that the people from the Department of Work and Pensions aren't able to attend this meeting, so they're coming to the next meeting instead. But at the end of this meeting, when we actually close it, Fran's got somebody coming to talk to us about the AI initiatives that people were asking about. So if people don't mind staying after the meeting, we'll get a short update about that then. So first of all then, have we got any apologies for absence and substitutions? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Mike Adams. Councillor Martin Smith is substituting, and apologies from Councillor Darren Maltby as well.
Thank you. Councillor Meads?
Yes, Chair. I'm substituting for Russell.
Thank you. And Councillor
Yes, we've also received apologies from Councillor McCrossan, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so item 2 are the minutes of the meeting on the 21st of July. Is everyone happy that these are an accurate record? Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Pope, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. Any matters arising? Nope. Thank you. So item 3 is obviously any declaration of interest, and if you realise one arises, please highlight it when we get to that item. Thank you. So we will now move on to item 5, and today we have got Councillor Viv McCrossan coming to talk to us about her portfolio. Thank you.
Evening. I'll use the mic even though I've got a loud voice. We've got a very full presentation, so I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can because I know you've got lots of other business on scrutiny, but it's also quite important on their annual portfolio whole rounds that I give an update. It didn't seem like 5 minutes ago I was here with my previous portfolio. Anyway, first of all, I would like to say before I start, I really would like to say and thank to all our staff for their dedicated and committed hard work in providing excellent services across our borough, and that goes without saying. I would particularly like to thank this evening Sim, our climate manager, change manager, who's sitting here alongside me, who's done some tremendous partnership work, because as you can imagine, climate's not about one person, it's about all of us, and Sim is just a master of partnerships and communication. So she's done a sterling job this year, and I really hope that I can highlight, the really important work that she's done. But I do want a big thanks, and I'd also like to say a big thanks to Andy Bergen tonight, our Parks Operations Manager, in terms of the help he's done this evening for putting together all the updates on parks. And I know that members are particularly interested in that because it affects everybody. In terms of the parks and open spaces. So thank you, Andy, for that as well. And of course, it goes without saying, all our senior leaders that have been supporting. So here we go. So it's an overview, carbon management and climate change. I'm not going to, because the chair has said to me, don't I dare read anything out from the slides. So I can't read anything from the slides. So can you just read them yourselves? And obviously maintenance around our cemeteries, our open spaces, as part of what we're doing. So some of the slides are quite complex, and some of them have got sort of abbreviations that you might not know, so I'll try and spell them out as we go along. But as part of our bid to address our carbon emissions, the Council commissioned APES, which is our Association of Public Service Excellence. We commissioned them to refresh and calculate our carbon footprint, as they did in 2019 and subsequent years. So using data from August 23 to July 24, Scope 1, as you can see in the table, is our gas consumption and fuel used by our fleet. Scope 2, as you can see again, it's the amount of electricity used. In 23-24, it's the first year we have reported on Scope 3. Now, Scope 3 combines 15 categories in this scope, so it looks at things like water disposal, waste, recycling, employer commuting, business travel, etc. So it's quite a lot to calculate. The main category in this scope is through purchased goods and services that we are not yet scoping and reporting on. And it is hoped that we can improve this in our reporting, Scope 3 year on year. So looking at what the outcomes that we've achieved, the table highlights the comparison from 2019-20 to 23-24. And as you can see, there's an overall carbon emissions have reduced by 45% for Scope 1 and 2, and this was compared to 22% in 22-23. That indicates a significant move in the right direction. And if we include Scope 3 in the overall reduction, at the minute it's 14%, but that's work in progress. As we know, the main driver for this, because we've heard this before in Council and Cabinet, our main driver is our change in our fleet fuel usage. We use, from April 2023, rather than hydrocarbon diesel, we've used carbon-generated vegetable oil in our fuel, and that's made a massive difference in terms of our carbon emissions. Moving on then to the climate change challenge. Here we've got our climate change challenge in terms of our e-learning for all our staff, because the important thing is that we're not doing it to them, we're doing it with them. We all need to understand the impact of climate change, and it's really important that we start from home, and we start from home in terms of our staff. So this was launched in January 24. It really is an interactive staff training that covers areas like what is climate change, what are the impacts of climate change, how can organisations enable sustainability, and what thoughts can employees and other individuals make. So as you can see, it's 35 minutes. We've had some really positive feedback in terms of staff using this. Highlighted, this was some really lovely activities that we were involved in. The information was easy to understand. It wasn't complicated. It made me seriously think about my actions, to be honest, and I need to do that course to bring it back to the forefront of my mind. I think people had lots of reflections from doing that. It's been rolled out towards directors and managers in particular responsible areas, but it will continue to be rolled out. To date, 223 members of staff have completed that training. And to add to that, annually, we offer the accredited carbon literacy training, which I know some members here have done. I've done that, obviously, myself, and I know many of the senior managers and councillors have taken part in this, and to date, 75 of our staff, including members. And again, if the opportunity comes again next year, I really seriously think you should take that opportunity to do it. It's really a very good course. So, climate change to our residents. Wow, this was a really, lots of innovation here. Sim. The first of its kind to be created by a local authority. We launched it on World Health Day, 2024, and it was really about a general understanding of climate change and sustainability, and it was a 20-minute interaction. To date, 157 people have completed the training. The Climate Change Challenge has been promoted through all our main events. Some main events we've done, you would have seen if you'd have been in Arnott Hill Park during our fairs. Our Future for a Cleaner, Greener Gedling, which was an event that we held here. Gedling Country Park, annual parish councils, and we continue to display it on our screens in all public places. So again, we're really talking about what our community understands by climate change and what small measures we can all make. So that's been highly successful, and again, lots of positive feedback. Climate impact assessment. I mean, just to say, obviously, this is a whistle through. So, hold on and keep with it. But it is a whistle through because there's loads and loads of information here. So to try and make it so that it's sort of, we can get through as much as we can. So our climate impact assessment, pretty much similar to our equalities impact assessment that you fill in when any policies or processes or any decisions made by the council are determined. The climate impact assessment is completed by any project policy decision. Similar format, as I said, to the equalities. The main themes are around transport, energy, natural resources, climate change, waste reduction, recycling, blue-green infrastructure, biodiversity, and really meets with our council's environmental policy. Any negative impacts need to clearly be mitigated in terms of mitigating actions. And if negative impacts can be avoided, the council needs to consider whether the decision action is justified. So this now is used in all of our decision making, all of our work that we do within the council. Oh, a few pictures. The council wants to promote and encourage active travel. And as you can see from outside the council, we've got six in Red Hill, we've got 6 secure lockers. And in Arnold, we have 7. For people visiting, coming to the park, they can pick up the locks from the reception. As you can see, I use them myself. And it was interesting talking to some staff members when we did the conference day, and we had some staff members that said that they wouldn't have cycled because they didn't feel that their bikes were secure, but now having these lockers really made a difference and they felt able to bring their bikes in. These were all funded through Safer Street funding via the Nottinghamshire Police and Crime Commissioner. Okay. Oh, another picture. So slide 8. The council has installed 4 electric car charging points at each delivery for the SKW of power at the Civic Centre at Arnold Hill Park and 6 at Gedling Country Park. In total, we have 35 points installed across 10 council car parks in the borough. The top 3 users are the ultra-rapid chargers, and they're situated at High Street, Arnold, and Hayward Road Car Park, Mapley and St Albans Car Park in Arnold. The Department of Transport provided Nottinghamshire County Council with a grant of 5.55 million for local electric vehicle infrastructure across the whole of Nottinghamshire. And Gedling has been partnering and having consultation at the moment in terms of thinking about where further points can be installed within our borough. So, fast followers innovation. Equally, a collaboration between Nottingham City Council has successfully secured 287k of government funding from the Net Zero Living through the Fast Followers competition. The bid was submitted in partnership with Gedling, Nottinghamshire County Council, Derby City, Derbyshire County Council, Broxtowe Borough Council and Rushcliffe Council, funded by the Department of Energy, Security and Net Zero and Innovation UK. It aims to deliver an efficiency and a scalable route to net zero for N2ND and EMCCA. We all know what they mean, don't we? The Business Hub and East Midlands Combined County Authority. It commenced in July 2023 and the project ends in June, and the final report will be out soon for publication. We had a conference here. This was funded through the Fast Followers. We had a conference here in this chamber, Our Future for a... it wasn't in this chamber. It was in the Bonington Theatre, yeah. It was funded through the UK Fast Followers. It was Our Future for a Cleaner, Greener Gedling. And it took place again on World Environment Day in June this year. It was a highly successful conference. We had over 80 participants that came to that conference. It was really organised in a really creative manner. It was a creative approach to embark on case studies by deploying short films, looking at all the different things that are going on in the borough, showcasing this in a visual manner using local case studies. And as I said, we had really overwhelming positive feedback. And again, it was really looking at businesses that were green in the borough, looking at people's retrofit homes. It was looking at communities. It was looking at how we provide food. It was looking at transport, and it was looking at our transport infrastructure. So there were some of the people that came along on the day. Lots of stalls that were there, and the feedback, as I said, the feedback was interactive on the day. So things like food for thought, interesting, informative, inspiring, inspirational, positive, thought-provoking. These were all things that people at the end of the day fed back about the event. And what I've asked him to do is, the films, they're only short little films, but I'm really hoping that we can get some of those films out onto our screens in different locations in the borough, because they were really watchable and they were inspiring in terms of what people have done to think about how they can become greener. Oh, and that's it. What inspired you? So there's some of the things that people said about what inspired them. I'll let you have a quick look. I like that, how Gedling is so keen and forward-thinking. I don't expect this from local government. I'm very pleased, relieved. Okay. So I'm just trying to get my which slide am I on? Am I on slide 16? 13, thank you. This was the local energy plan. Final plan will be published in November, early December. Again, local energy plan, funded by the East Midland Compliant Local Authority. The primary goal is to identify most cost-effective ways to decarbonise across the Gedling, Broxton and Rushcliffe. The development of the LAEP starts in August and expected to finish in autumn. Key outcomes including mapping decarbonisation scenarios, creating a digital twin model to support key actions against a large-scale refit. Okay. Climate emergency scorecard. Gedling Borough has been recognised for its action to tackle the climate emergency. As you can see, all councils across the county were graded on their delivery of their climate actions during 2024. The Organisation of Climate Emergency UK assessed all councils across 7 different sections, and councils were then given a percentage of how well they are at delivering on their climate actions to achieve net zero. And I'm delighted to say, you can see that Gedling's score was released in July 2024, and it's the highest of the 7 boroughs and districts councils in Nottinghamshire, with 36%. So that's great news, isn't it? Well done, Gedling Borough. Another thing that we're looking at in terms of low carbon advertising. So in January 2025, Gedling Borough Council added to the policy high carbon products to the list of items unlikely to be accepted by the councils for advertising on sponsorship, demonstrating our commitment again as a council. And home retrofit scheme completed. Devolution retrofit schemes funded by the new MCA Mayor and delivered £578,078 on installations of home energy efficiency measures. I mean, these schemes were targeted at lower income households with lower energy performance rating. The schemes were primarily delivered in the Gedling ward due to a high concentration of eligible households and non-traditional construction properties, which benefited from solid wall insulation. The scheme was delivered in partnership with E.ON Energy Services, who managed the installs. So 29 homes had solar or external wall installations. The House Upgrade Grant Phase 2 was delivered in partnership with Nottinghamshire County Council and Nottingham Energy Partnership to improve the energy efficiency of homes not using gas for central heating purposes. The scheme was targeted again at low-income households with low energy performance rates. Due to the nature of this scheme, eligible properties were found in rural locations spread across the borough, and 24 homes were upgraded with 41 measures. And they were a mix of 12 receiving solar panels, 4 air source pumps, 7 with high retention storage heaters, A-range insulation, loft cavity, external wall insulation. And on this project, £364,585 was spent, which, when we look at housing and how much everything costs, of course, isn't a huge amount of money. So well done again to that. So there's some of the achievements. I mean, along with that, our climate manager continues to work very closely with our climate groups. We have Gedling Climate Group and Burton Joyce Climate Action Group that Sim works alongside. We also had a second annual climate conference debate which took place in the council chamber with 60 young people, and it was chaired by the Mayor of Gedling and the Climate Change Officer taking on board questions and answers. As well as that, the Climate Change Manager presents to the annual Parish Council forums, as well received, as well as putting applications forward to the Midlands Net Zero hubs to undertake a fleet review and a fleet and infrastructure report, as well as a result of dashboards. So summing up, you can see that our climate manager has a very busy time. We've had some really great achievements this year, but we know that we're still a long way off where we need to be in terms of climate change. So I'd like to thank that, and I'd like to thank Sim. So moving forward, our parks. As you know, we have to apply each year for the green flag, and I'm really pleased to say that 4 of our parks have the green flag awards. I mean, it is amazing to read that we have 52 parks and open spaces in this borough. It's pretty amazing. I think somebody told me it's more than the whole of Birmingham. I mean, it is pretty amazing, the amount of space. And I was out today in Collick Park, and you just think, wow, we've got some... And I was at Bestwood the day before, and I just think, wow, we've got some fabulous places. So we have 52 parks, open spacing ranging from 4 green flags, large recreation grounds, small pocket parks such as Haywood Road Green, along with small open spaces. And we have 32 play areas located across the borough as well. I mean, again, that is a pretty amazing, and actually to upkeep that amount for such a small borough, really, it's amazing. So we provide support and guidance for over 50 licensed community events. All through the year, we have events going on in our parks. These include fun fairs, community fun days, fireworks, summer fairs, and charitable promotion events. Clearly, what's been amazing this year and the year before is our work in partnership with our 16 Friends groups, because the Friends groups have made a massive difference. And I know in my ward, the Friends group at Breckhill Park, I mean, Breckhill Park is just an amazing space now, and it's really through the hard work of the Friends groups. We can't thank them enough, because with their assistance, we've been able to apply for funding. And through this work, we've been able to refurbish more and more our parks and our play parks. So the work of the team, the whole team have worked really hard to retain the green flags. We also cannot forget the festive, and we've just said that about those. So this is the Queen Elizabeth II Memorial Project, and for those of you who haven't been, it's at Gedling Country Park. The project was really developed through the park rangers in partnership again with the Friends of Gedling Country Park, and it was to commemorate the late Queen. The work included tree planting, development of new wildflower areas, and the installation of 2 bespoke memorial benches. And the memorial benches have been in consultation with local people in terms of the design. So that's a lovely piece of work. If you haven't seen it, go up and see it. And it's not the McCrossan show, but the park's development, again on Valley Road, again, it was working in partnership with the Friends Group, the Valley Road Park Friends Group. It was redeveloped in early 2025 and opened in the spring. And again, we were very fortunate to be awarded external funding in this, and that could not be achieved without our partnership. And again, a lovely, lovely park. So going forward, funding bids have been funding bids are around, as you can see, in terms of the Friends of Jackie Bales, Friends of Church Lane, Onker Park and Newstead Parish Council. The application for 100k to refurbish Jackie Bales has been successful. The delivery of this project has been slightly delayed due to procurement, so it's pushed it back a bit because it was due to be opened earlier, but now it will be delivered in April 26. April 26. And again, if you've been down to Jackie Bales, it's a really well-used park. It's got a fabulous mural now that's on the wall, and it's quite a significant history in that particular park down in Netherfield, in terms of the work that it used to do around haulage in the 18th century around the train lines down there. So it's got a lot of history. And again, a lovely park, but very well used. An application has been submitted in August to improve Church Lane, and we are eagerly awaiting to hear if that's successful. There is ongoing consultation to undertake in partnership with the Friends of Onker Park, and we are working towards submitting a funding application in November. And we are very grateful for Newstead Parish Council, who have already done some consultation for their application, and the plan is to submit this application in February 2026. So during 24-25, we planted an amazing 3,500 trees around the borough, mainly funded through external sources such as the Woodland Trust, the Urban Tree Challenge Fund, and the Trees for Climate funding. And that was, it might look sunny, but actually it was a very muddy day, and myself and Sarah nearly slipped down the bank at Digby Park, because as you know, Digby Park is sort of like that. So we hung on to each other and we managed to stay upright. I think my shoes were slightly more sensible than yours, actually, Sarah. Oh, yeah. I didn't choose all these pictures to come up, by the way. So there's the wildlife area. Trees for Climate funding was created a 1.2 acre wildflower meadow at Digby Park, and we now have a total of 6.5 acres of wildlife area across our parks. As we know, they have ecological and environmental benefits such as pollination support. Wildflowers provide essential food and habitat for declining populations of bees, and I did have a bee headdress on there for that picture. Butterflies, moths, and other benefits other insects, which are crucial for pollination, crops, and wild planting. Increasing biodiversity, Meadows are rich in ecosystems that support a vast range of wildlife, including insects, fungi, reptiles, amphibians, smaller mammals and birds, soil health and erosion control. And the complex root systems of wildflowers stabilise the soil, preventing nutrient loss and mitigating the risk of flooding because it holds rainwater. So this slide looks at, and I don't know if anyone's been down to see these, I mean, amazing. In partnership with the LTA, the refurbishment of the 4 tennis courts, it seems like more than 4 tennis courts, but the 4 tennis courts at Conway Road Recreation Ground. I mean, they are amazing. I mean, really, not Wimbledon, who plays on I don't know, some posh competition, because they are really quite amazing. And it was, I was there on the open day for the community. So many young people came down to play, and, you know, I think everybody was wowed by it. So the project was delivered with external funding from the Lawn Tennis Association and UK SPF. The tennis court bookings and maintenance are now managed by an organisation called We Do Tennis. So again, fabulous to have in the borough, really worth going down and seeing. So now we have the bird hide project. This project was a great use of the Section 106 funding available for the improvements to Gedling Country Park. And again, this facility offers something new for the park, our bird watching community, to have a dedicated space to come and enjoy their hobby. And as we know, that Gedling Country Park is, you know, one of our most popular parks in the borough, and amazing wildlife. And again, it gives them a really good opportunity for people that are really interested to come and look at our wonderful wildlife down at our parks. This slide looks at community payback, immediate justice partnerships. Our continued successful partnerships working with the restorative justice programmes, community payback and immediate justice to provide ongoing maintenance and tasks to our parks, including tree planting, management of our wildflower areas, leaf clearance and litter picking. And the group of people that come down to do this work has taken place in Gedling Country Park, Burton Road, Jubilee Park and Arn Hill Park. And again, it's a really valuable partnership. On to cemeteries. Burial figures for the last 12 months are 263 in total across all cemeteries in the last 12 months. And I think that's a figure that is going down, actually, in terms of people wanting to be buried. I mean, that figure is going down, and now, obviously, crematorium is probably going up. Yeah. And last but not least, very dear to my heart, would be our pet crematorium. With being an owner of 4 dogs, that will know that we'll be using the pet crematorium at some point. The table shows the performance of the pet crem over the last 6 years. There was a drop in numbers last year, following 5 years of the numbers increasing. For Q1 this year, the numbers are 153, which in comparison to 2020-23, we had 152 customers, so not a massive drop. And it was pleasing to see that in 24-25, we did generate a small surplus. Customer feedback for this is 94%. I think I've got another slide for that now. The customer feedback for this is 94%. I feel this is a really good service, and it's seen as something that is really valued by clearly pet owners in the community. But as you can see, some really lovely feedback. Superb customer service, excellent, needs to be added to the scores. So it's a small service. I know there was quite a lot of talk about this service in the past, But actually, it's good to see that there's been a small surplus returned, but actually it offers something really quite important for our pet-loving community. And I certainly will be using it in later years. So you'll be pleased to know that's the end. Actually, I did really well at whistling through that. Once again, I would like to thank all the staff that have worked so hard. I meet them on a frequent basis, work so hard, so much enthusiasm, absolutely know their stuff, positive feedback, and it's a pleasure to work alongside them. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCrossan, and I'm delighted that you didn't just read out the slides. Thank you. Did you get sent some questions that were submitted in advance?
No.
No. Okay.
Were there?
Yes.
Oh, I did ask several times.
Did mine not get? I sent some in, but I will find them while I ask if anyone else has got any questions. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. This new app that we use for the agendas doesn't have the note thing, so I might have forgot the first thing, but you'll be pleased to know. On parks, I just wonder, two questions, if I may. What are we doing to adapt them to protect them from traveller encampments? Where I represent in Gedling, the Burton Road site seems to be targeted quite heavily year on year. So just if we can look at stuff like that. I know in Newark, where they suffer badly with it, they've put bunds around the edge because then vehicles can't get over them. But just an update on that, if I may. Another thing, when we upgrade the parks, I think what you've done as a council, or what you've done is fantastic with the play park improvements and the grants. I always get lots of complaints, and I'm sure other councillors do, about there's nothing to do for teenagers, standing around the co-op in Burton Joyce all the time. When we do the park improvements, do we look at things that can target all ages, like pump tracks and BMX tracks? And I know Breckhill wanted to do it, they're just waiting for more funding, but I wonder if we can start building that in now, as well as upgrading the swings and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The first point then, in terms of what we're doing to protect our parks, I'm looking at you, Sarah, on that one.
That's fine. So we have been looking at access to all of our parks. Obviously, there is a fine line because we need them to be accessible for people with mobility scooters as well as our own maintenance vehicles. But we are looking at what we can do in terms of removable kind of bollards and lockable barriers and that sort of thing. So the team have been doing a little bit of an audit on what's in there at the moment. So we can hopefully safeguard that as much as possible.
And it's interesting you're asking the question about teenagers, because on, when was it now? Where are we now? Monday. Friday night, I was invited to the urban skateboarding. I know I'm down there with the kids. Urban skateboarding presentation in the city. And it was with a guy called Chris, who works very closely with the Borough on the development of the skateboarding parks and what we're doing in terms of developing more skateboarding. But not just skateboarding, urban. Because actually what I learned was, because Chris presented a presentation, and then a guy from Bordeaux, top skater from Bordeaux, came over to talk to us. So, and he worked alongside the local authorities in Bordeaux to develop skateboarding because of their concerns around antisocial behaviour in young people. And they had some remarkable outcomes from this. But what he was saying was, of course, skate parks are great because it's where people train. But actually, it's more about our infrastructure. So if you think of the city, and if you think of the area between the Contemporary and the station, the area that's now been developed as a sort of an urban, a bit like the South Bank in London, like the urban skate park. He was saying that it's more of a city or a county philosophy about how you can create maybe some architecture that, they used some architecture where young people could skate and hang out. And a bit like Sneinton Market. You go down to Sneinton Market, all around there, they're using some of the sort of structure. So it was really interesting. But the bit that I wanted to feed back to you was Chris, that had been working alongside the city, said one of the borough that works the closest with them, and he could not praise us enough, was Gedling. In terms of what we're doing, in terms of our infrastructure, talking, thinking, consulting with young people. They put up our fabulous Peter Blake, if you know Peter Blake, you know the artist, Liverpool artist, Beatles, our Peter Blake skate park, you know here in the Arnott Hill Park. Have you been up and seen the fabulous colours that a local artist worked with the young people? But you know, he could not be more complimentary in terms of what Gedling are doing to think about our parks and open spaces with young people. So I was sitting there, so he introduced me, but I think it was really impressive. But it was interesting what he was saying. Sorry, I'm diverting now, but Manchester have created a very harsh anti-infrastructure, which creates, the concrete or whatever that they use actually can injure skateboarders. Manchester's very anti-skateboarding and skate park, where actually we're embracing it, the city are very much embracing it. But it was really lovely to hear. So, yeah, I'm feeling really positive.
Councillor Ellis?
Yes, thank you. And thank you and your colleagues for putting that presentation together. I'm really impressed with how much you, Gedling, is doing in this area. And the PowerPoint was great. As an ex-trainer, I really appreciated it, I have to say. Right, I've got 2 questions and maybe a comment. The first one is more sort of personal. It's about the bike lockers. They look fabulous. Has anyone ever tried fitting an electric trike in them?
Well, we've certainly seen the electric bike go in, but I don't think we've seen a trike. So have you tried, Rachel?
No, but I might.
You can Ron and I can put both our bikes in one. So we can get two bikes in one. Right. The electric bikes, which are big, they go in easily. But yeah, Ron and I, just our normal bikes, we can get them into one. So give it a go.
Will do.
Fiddle around with the lock, though. The lock's not the easiest thing to use, I have to say.
Okay. Right, and then the second thing, again, still on the bike lockers. I think they're fabulous, and obviously they're being put into parks and car parks. I had noted in London, and maybe other places, they're actually installing lockers for the community on streets. Particularly for people who might have problems actually safely storing their bikes at home. I did wonder whether we were considering that.
You can see in London that they would do that because actually there's no space. People are living, you see bikes hanging out on balconies, and in fact my son had his bike out on a balcony, all lovely locked up. It was stolen. So I think for London I can absolutely see it. In terms of plans, Sim, have we got any plans?
County Council as well. We're not in charge of the...
Oh, it's the County Council.
In terms of having it on the roads. So
Oh yeah, of course, highways. Yeah, so it's highways. So I don't think we've been in any discussion yet, though, have we? So it might be something that we can think about going forward, certainly in some communities where it's pretty tight and there isn't much space.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And then more of a comment. The conference at the Bonington is where the Play Forum started that community artwork on that big, you had a picture of it. It's completed now. We took it to various events. Wondering if you wanted... I got a nod. OK, we can talk. Thank you.
Councillor Pope?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the slide presentation and not reading to us. That'll be a feature from everyone, I'm sure. The first question I had, which, you may have just answered, Sim, was about the development of electric vehicle charging points across the borough. and whether any thought had been given to on-road park charging, the sort where they utilise lamp posts, put a low trickle charger type point. Right.
Approximately, you're looking at a range of 135 to 140 points going throughout the borough. But the county council, we have given them a comprehensive list, and so they're going through exactly what areas are achievable, and that is really down to the county council to decide on ultimately with their supplier. I think they're in a procurement stage at the moment. But once we get further information from them, we will be looking at where those points will be.
So, if you could come to the mic when you're going to answer a question. Sorry.
I thought my voice
You
was
don't need
loud
to
enough.
say the whole thing again.
Sorry, could you not? Sorry about that. So I was going to say part of the Levi funding, which is through Notts County Council, we are looking at between 135 to 140 points throughout the borough. The County Council are currently procuring that contract. We did send a list of potential sites. Nothing's been confirmed at the moment, so I think it's watch this space, but there will be points located on various streets within the borough. But I can't confirm what those streets are at the moment.
Thank you. Sorry, I've got some other... No, not for you, Sim. I think it's for Viv. Some questions about Gedling Country Park. So, since the implementation of the parking charges at the park, has any data been collected on ongoing usage of the car parking facility, whether there's been any drop-off and whether it's creating any issues in the local communities?
I think it's a good news story, but I'll pass it on to Sarah. I'll give the exact, but it's a good news story, I think.
Yeah, so we have got the figures from, we don't routinely do kind of footfall figures in the parks because we just wouldn't be able to do it. However, the park run does do football figures, and they've said that there's no drop off in the number of attendees that they're getting for their events that they have every week. The cafe similarly is not reporting any significant shift in footfall. So on that basis, we believe that the footfall has broadly stayed where it was before. But we will be doing some analysis on obviously the income that we've had from the car park, so as we know what we can use that on and how much we've got to play with. As we get further down the line, we're still only kind of 6-8 months in.
Are you looking at tying that to the income being generated from people either paying at a daily fee or the yearly fee? Because certainly, I'm a councillor for Plains, so that comes up and abuts against. And feedback we get from residents is that there's certainly an increase in off-park parking, so parking on residential streets, and also the little lay-by down at the bottom where the commercial area is still for sale, and that's impacting on them.
Okay, we haven't looked at that in any detail in terms of displaced parking. I guess if it is proving an issue, then if people can report that into us, we can discuss with the county. It would be a county council to enforce because it's a street parking arrangement. It's a bit messy, sorry. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, the figures are looking all right, and we can split out the income figures between the people who buy season tickets and the people who kind of pay as you go every time they come. So we can do that analysis once we've got enough data to actually look at. We can pull that together.
Right. Final thing on the park, I think. Annual fee, has any consideration, I think this came up earlier in the year, but has any consideration been given to splitting that so that people could buy quarterly access to parking? Again, number of residents that use the park have said that for them, being retired, it's quite a large amount for them to find at one go, but they'd be quite happy to consider a staged payment across the year.
Okay, that isn't something that we've looked at previously, but I think we could do, and we're just coming up to fees and charges, obviously, in the next couple of months, so we could have a look at how that might work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly think instalments, I think that is something we could look at. Just to say about the lay-by, I mean, I go past that quite frequently. I mean, they've always parked there. Even before the car park charging, they rent that lay-by. And I've gone by several times. It's not increased that much.
I beg to differ. I think sometimes you can go past there and it's absolutely empty, but I've noticed more times that I've gone past there's a much higher usage of that. Went past there last Thursday and it was absolutely rammed. You know, you couldn't have parked there. It was absolutely full. I mean, it was a nice day, but...
Well, then they'll have to go and pay up to the car park then, if it was rammed.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of comments, please. Thank you for the presentation. Whilst I'm aware that Newstead is due for a refurb, the play park there, it's really good to see it in black and white because this has been promised for such a long while and Newstead is eventually moving up the list. Big difference at Newstead is since Andy's taken up his role. I'm sorry I didn't recognise you when you first came in because I've only seen you in dark colours and with Wellingtons on, etc. Because whilst this park is ready for a refurb, there's still a lot of work that needs to do to keep it, first of all, safe for people who use it at the moment. I'm really pleased that that's actually happening after a lot of asking. So it's good to see a sort of change of personnel with an increased presence in that area. So thank you for that. And whilst we're talking about Newstead, pleased to see that you're working very proactively with Skate Nottingham and so on. And I was delighted to see some feedback from the jam sessions, if that's the correct word, Viv. Yeah. So I think there were 6 sessions held across the borough this summer, and I was really pleased that one of those was held in Newstead Village because unfortunately, this council can be accused of being Arnold-centric. On this occasion, it certainly wasn't, and I think the Newstead session was had the highest attendance out of any of them. So please, plea from me, let's go back to Newstead and the other villages where we can next summer, not just for skate sessions, for all sorts of play activities. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Councillor Brocklebank.
Thank you. Just obviously to agree with everyone else, and thank you for the presentation. I think it's one of the best ones we've had, and also, again, to all the staff and all their hard work. I have had reason to use the pet cremation service. I would say it is absolutely amazing. And if anybody, when the time comes for anyone in the borough, I would absolutely 100% recommend it. And then I have got 2 questions. One is to do with the home retrofit scheme, which I think has been a really impressive piece of work. And I suppose it's just, is that something that we think is going to be possible to go for more funding in the future? Is that something we're going to try and do? Because I think it's really important for 2 reasons. Climate change, obviously, but also with the cost of living, that helping some of our poorer residents to keep their energy costs down. So it's just, is that something we're looking to do bigger and better and more in the future? And if so, how? And then shall I ask my second one and then let you go? Okay, and then the second one was around the play areas. Just, again, really impressive work around all the funding bits we've gone in to improve the parks all across the borough. And it's just a question around some of the smaller parks. I'm going to try and describe them as best I can, but the ones that often, when the new build estates are built and they have the smaller parks that are run by the estate managements, and then gradually they pass over into Borough Council responsibility. But they are these smaller parks that they're not really big enough to have, say, like a Friends of group, because it's just got 3 or 4 bits of equipment. But often they can get a bit forgotten about because they're not as visible and as big. And it's just, are there plans for the future of how we're going to maintain the quality of those and make sure they still keep that usage up as best we can and keep them safe and vibrant as well. That was it. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, just in terms of the retrofit, we had. Did you come to the Greener Gedling Day? There was really lovely film by a couple. I think, but they were in Netherfield.
The retrofit.
Yeah.
No,
you're thinking. No, there was one in either Netherfield or Carlton, a young couple that had had some improvements to, and it's a great little film really in terms of the difference it's made to their bills, difference it's made in terms of their home, you know, how they're feeling, you know, they're a young family, they've got one child, and it was a really, really well put together little film. So that's worth catching, and hopefully we can get them up so you can, you know, be able to get them on, you know, going to Gedling Borough and get these little films to watch. But in terms of going forward...
Okay, so yeah, I can answer in terms of retrofit. We've got 2 new schemes. One's called the Home Upgrade Grant. So rather than Home Upgrade Grant 2, it's just called Home Upgrade Grant. And that's government funded. And it provides energy upgrades such as low carbon heating, insulation, loft insulation, internal, external wall insulation, solar PVs, and I'm sure it also includes air source heat pump. That funding is available for people on low incomes and certain benefits, and I believe that funding ends March 2026, I think, for that particular funding. This will be promoted on our website shortly. There's also the Eco4. The Eco4 is where the government requires the energy companies to provide energy upgrades. So really similar measures, such as all of those measures that I've mentioned, like insulation, etc. And it's really, again, looking at low income and EPC ratings of C or below. So it tends to be D, E, F. So again, that funding's available, and both of those funding streams are through Nottingham Energy Partnership. So that's how you actually apply for that funding. So it's not direct through Gedling Borough Council, but we will obviously be promoting it. And then in terms of retrofit for the future, that's really going to be EMCA who are going to be providing further future funding, and that has been confirmed through the climate directive that I'm sort of connected with. So hopefully we'll see future funding through that.
Thank you. And in terms of the parks?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Andy's, I think this is actually only about week 6, isn't it, Andy? 7. So he's new in post, but he has already been getting out and about to have a look at some of the parks and things to make sure that we're managing to hit our maintenance targets, and we're able to look at equipment and bids and that sort of thing. It is much easier to get money if you've got a friends group, but as you say, a lot of the sites either just don't have that kind of community interest, or they're just too small. It's not part of a bigger kind of park scenario. So we're looking at where we can get money from to do some of that work that's needed. We're looking at what's part of our core budget, just in terms of maintenance, but we're also going to be looking across the board at what we want for the future. So when we're considering 106 contributions for open space, do we want an on-site provision that's quite small, or actually would it be better to integrate that into something we've already got and make that better? What's going to be best for our community? So Andy's very much getting stuck into the play area side of things.
So just to further add to what Sarah said, a lot of these smaller areas, so they're locally equipped areas of play, they're actually managed by management companies. And as Sarah said, we're starting a review at the moment in terms of what it is that we actually require. So there will be an updated planning policy, so a policy that we'll have in place that we'll use to determine planning and related applications. So that's an ongoing piece of work, and the Parks team are feeding into that.
Thank you. So, Councillor Pope asked one of my questions, so I'd be glad to know that. And in terms, I was going to make some very similar points in relation to Oncombe Park in Carlton that Councillor Smith made about Newstead. But I think the concern that's raised with us in Carlton the most is that when the green space strategy came out and the parks were ranked, that a lot of the parks that have been refurbished seem to have been in better condition than some of the parks that are still waiting to be refurbished. And I know that Oncombe Park has had a friends group in place that far precedes me as a councillor, and have actually had other starting up friends groups been advised by the council to go to them for advice, that have since had their parks refurbished, and Oncombe Park are still waiting. So I was just wondering how, having had the review done in the green space strategy, how it it's then been decided which parks get refurbished first?
I'm really sorry, I don't know the answer to that because it was done prior to my arrival. But we can try and find out and come back to you on that if that's okay.
That is why I tried to send it in advance, but never mind. It's one of those things.
Yeah, I have to say, Catherine, I'm sorry about that. I did ask several times if we've had any pre-questions and nothing's come forward. So if that had have come forward, we would have answered it. I suppose just an observation, thinking about, I don't know about the timeframes, but certainly just an observation about parks. It's not only about the time, is it? It's about usage. And some parks may look like the equipment's newer, but actually the usage of it will have a detrimental impact over time because it will wear out quicker. And some parks we know are highly populated with young people. And I'm just thinking of my observation of Jackie Bell's, which if you look at Jackie Bell's, if you've been down to Sneinton, look at Jackie Bell's, which is really well used. In part, it looks like some of the equipment is newer, but actually is getting a refit because it is, large numbers of young people over time have used it, and I think that in part it has worn out. So it's not always about, when a piece of equipment's put in, how long it's put in. It's also looking at the usage of it as well. But I'm sorry your question wasn't answered, but I didn't get it.
I think Jackie Bell's was actually a high priority anyway, but obviously some of the equipment in Oncombe Park has been condemned and removed, so it's hard to use equipment that is unusable because it's not safe. Okay, I now need to check. Are we asking Councillor Palin to do her bit now or when we get to the fly tipping item? No? So, sorry that I asked a downer question at the end, but thank you very much for a very interesting presentation.
Okay, thank you.
So Councillor Paling is giving us a brief update on part of her portfolio, which I will let her introduce.
So I too want to thank all the staff who have helped keep the service going. I think it's been difficult in the last few weeks, and I think we've done a brilliant job in actual fact. I'm saying this is a brief portfolio update. It's not my usual session to do the report. And Sarah has got a detailed report coming up at agenda item 7, which could well answer quite a few of the potential questions. Councillor Wilkinson and I work very closely with Sarah and the Assistant Director Environment, Julie Snowden, and the Parks Operations Manager, Andrew Birkin, to discuss the regular portfolio holder issues that have been happening over the last few weeks. I don't know which button it's going to be. That's very quickly our vision. You can read it for yourself. We want to get it right. Viv and I are confused about cemeteries. Whose responsibility are they? I think we share a bit of it, so I'll just make one comment on it later on. As I'm sure you're all aware, we collect the household black bins, etc. And we also collect trade waste, which now includes food waste for businesses with more than 10 employees. That's going to change as other bodies come into needing to collect their food waste. And fairly soon, 2027 sounds a long time away, but the planning needed to implement food collection for the whole population will not be easy. The second quarter, I think, has been really difficult for us. The summer season has not been as good as we would have liked. We've been beset by, I've not moved it on. Oh, I put this in as almost a question. I put that, please don't contaminate your recycling bin. We've got so many residents who are trying to be helpful, keeping their bins clean, putting everything in these black plastic bags or other plastic bags, but they're not recyclable. So the bin is contaminated and shouldn't be collected. Recycled waste should be loose and clean. Now back to the second quarter. Annual leave and sick leave clashed tremendously over the summer months, compounded by vehicle breakdowns, team vacancies. They've all contributed to the issues. We've had to use more agency workers than usual, and they don't know the rounds. White space digital waste tracking is being used in the bin lorries to pinpoint assisted collections, and this should really help, but it's taking a little while. Fortunately, the drivers have taken to the new technology very well, and we are now missing far fewer bins. Mist glass and garden waste has been collected with the next general waste collection, but we have been doing Saturday mop-up collections for general waste. New bin lorries are due to be delivered in the next couple of weeks, and this should really help, as breakdowns have been a bit of a problem too. We are interviewing 6 drivers and 6 loaders this week. Once they've gone through their training, we should really pick up on this. The actual pickup rates still compared favourably with other local authorities. These stats can be circulated with the minutes if required. September shows a great improvement. And I got an email from Sarah at 1 p.m. today saying all missed bins had been allocated, and then 2 missed bins came in, but they have now been allocated. So cross fingers, they'll be sorted straight away. The stats went from June of 467 missed bins to September 135. Quite a tremendous difference. So I hope that is really going to work for us. I'm just going to touch on cemeteries because there's operations issues for cemeteries as well as managing the plots, etc. Carlton Cemetery has 20 plus years remaining. Gedling 11 to 15 years, but Redhill is now all but 4. Current work is about wobbly gravestones and memorials. They are a danger to the public, and so we have to do something about it. Contacting owners to see what they want to do at their cost is what we're trying to do at the moment. If there's no response, we'll probably have to lay the gravestones on, lay the memorials and stones on the grave so that they are safe. Street cleansing. Every year, the street cleansing team actually empties a vast amount of litter and recycling bins. We've got over 48,000 litter bins in the borough and over 9,600 dog bins. And we clean up such a lot of streets and footpaths as well as public places and parks. Scheduling is a constant issue. We're currently looking to purchase new equipment, which in addition to the vehicles recently purchased, will help clear areas where there's parked cars. Procurement is going ahead for this. I think what I'm saying is I've got lots of explanations. They're not excuses. They are explanations of the things that have beset us over the last few weeks. I want to say a big thank you to the 100+ community litter picking individuals and groups who volunteer to litter pick around their own areas. I think it's well worth publicising this and thanking them because they do a great job. We have a seasonal campaign with the Big Spring Clean and Keep Britain Tidy. And one year I hope that we'll actually win one of their prizes if we can get it right. I can't think of anything more that isn't really already in Sarah's report, so I'm just going to ask for any questions. I haven't received any in advance.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation. Again, the PowerPoint was very good. Thank you. Right. I'm at the moment wanting to just talk about the street cleansing, which obviously autumn it becomes an issue, doesn't it? We are going to start using white space, is that right? Yeah. I'm just wondering whether that will mean that residents can have some advance notice, they can check when their street is going to be cleansed and maybe get their cars off the street. Just a thought.
Thank you, Sarah.
So we are looking at moving onto white space for street care and for parks. There's a lot of data that we need to gather before we can start and roll that out. So I think there is a little bit in the in my report about that later on, but there is waste we're in a stronger position to move ahead to switch into software where the other service areas are very paper driven and very much about what's in people's heads. So there is a bit of work to do before we get to that. How it works though in terms of the street sweeping in particular with the either mechanical sweepers or the litter picking is that it tends to be on a schedule and they will keep going with that schedule. So if they have a breakdown, it goes to the next day. So it's really difficult to give people a time in advance. So they should know within a week or so though, and I know that we have done some areas that have been flagged to us as being an issue, as a kind of one-off that they'll go and they'll leaflet drop the houses to say, we are going to be in your area on whatever day they're planning to do it. And they will let people know. So I think if there are specific streets where we know it's a problem, it might be something that we could look at further down the line. But I don't want to put the schedule out because it will inevitably always, there'll be something that will put it off and then it'll be wrong for the next kind of cycle.
Thank you.
I'm going to come in on that if you don't mind. Just a little extra. Scheduling is a bit of a nightmare sometimes. Leaf fall has already started. We don't usually do leaf fall until October, but we've started it already, which has meant that proposed schedules are already out of sync. We keep trying. Let's hope there's no floods in the immediate future that will upset the apple cart even further.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a future thing, but I'm sort of hoping that once we're on white space, if the schedule is disrupted for some reason or another, that will be entered in and people can see the changes. But I'll leave that with you.
So just to make sure I've got them all, so I've got Councillor Smith, Councillor Pope, Councillor Duncan and Councillor Mead. Did you say somebody else as well? Councillor Allen, right. So Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Paling, for your report. I do think that you have one of the most, if not the most important portfolios in the council because your services is what our residents interact with every day, and it's crucial. I'm pleased to hear about the bin improvements, and it's not really a question, it's a statement, but I'd get told off by my residents if I didn't say it, because over the past few months I've never had so many bin complaints as I've been on this council 7 years now. I've never had so many bin complaints in my period as an elected representative of those residents. And it's not black, and I have no complaints with general waste, black waste or green waste. It's garden waste. And the residents are really infuriated by it because they pay extra for that service. And we go back to them through the complaints process and say, oh, we'll get it, sorry we missed you this time, we'll get it right next week. They copy me in, the officers, and I'm grateful for that as their local member. And then we miss it. And it just infuriating. And you go around this doom loop of the computer says no through the complaint system, and we'll get it right, and then we don't, and then they kick off again. And there's one resident who WhatsApps me every week to say that he feels like the council's ignoring him on purpose because it's that often. And I know you're trying really hard, and I know you're bringing new systems in, but we really have got to keep the pressure on that, because it is really infuriating, and it lets this council down, and it's just not on, particularly as they pay extra for it. So it's not really a question. I'm pleased that the complaints have come down by about 300 in a month. That's great. In rural areas like Trent Valley, we've just got to keep on it, because it's really infuriating. Thank you.
Thank you. I was really surprised at some of the anomalies that we found out in the last few weeks with the mist bins. One, I think he's a resident of yours, but I may have got that wrong, was having his waste collected from the back of the house and his main collection at the front of the house, which causes confusion for everybody. And Maria, in Democratic Services helping us, I think has helped him sort this out now. And so it's not been simple. Challenges are there to challenge us, and we are trying hard.
So garden waste is top of the list for a round reorganisation, because we know at the moment it's not sustainable to deliver it with the crews that we've got, with the customer base that we've got. So as soon as we start and slow down, which should be in the next kind of 6 weeks or so, we're going to start looking at completely revamping those rounds. So there will be a little bit of pain in terms of lots of people's collection days might change. But it means that when we start again in March, we'll be in a much stronger position, and we should be much more achievable for the new rounds. We know that there have been lots of consistently missed bins, and the numbers have improved a lot over the last few weeks, but we're now down to the sticky ones. So it's the ones where actually, what is the problem with this one? Why does this one keep getting missed? So it takes a bit longer to work through those and to liaise with the crew and find out exactly what the problem is. But that's the process we're in now. So we're getting there.
Councillor Pope.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, Marge. Very helpful. Am I right in my understanding that the county council are responsible for greenery growing in the gutters, pavements, and elsewhere? Because you wouldn't be able to road sweep our roads. We've got as much greenery as Gedling Country Park, I think, including a buddleia at the bottom of our road that's about 2 foot tall, growing in the pavement. So, question was, which is completely separated from that, with the transition to green diesel vehicles for waste collection, has that impacted on their capacity at all?
I don't believe it has. It is more expensive than straightforward diesel, but we believe that is environmentally a good thing to pay for it. I'm sure, she's already gone, so I can't get her to confirm, but I'm sure that is the position, that we want to do it, even though it is slightly more expensive.
Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the performance of the vehicles, it shouldn't make any difference. What will help in terms of the costings and the environmental impact is doing the round redesign to make sure that actually we're not have 3 crews going to one area where we could do it with one. So that's all kind of moving in that direction.
Thank you.
Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, and yes, thank you for the presentation. I'm not sure if this is the right time to raise this, but the number of sweeps for smaller shopping areas has been reduced recently. I just wondered whether that is actually worthwhile, considering the increase in a number of call-outs for things like fly tipping. So I wonder if there's been any analysis of that done. And just to echo what Councillor Pope said, I've noticed a lot of buddleia and stuff growing out of things like pedestrian refuges and traffic light bases. Really could do with something being done. No, thank you.
I haven't noticed much of that nature, but I'll ask Sarah if she has any comment to make.
So the weed spraying is the responsibility of the county council, which is what we kind of asked before. In terms of the sweeping schedules, it would be useful if you could give me some specific examples of those, because I know that we're looking at the sweeping schedules, but I don't think we've made any changes to them yet. So if there's areas that we need to consider for a slightly different frequency, then we need to try and build that into that process. So if you want to drop me an email with some details of specific sites on, then we can look at that. My assistant director, who's not here tonight, she's on holiday, has got a really strong street cleansing background, so I know it's something that she really wants to get to grips with around the sweeping schedules to try and maximise the benefit of that and make sure that the different types of areas are getting the right attention.
Councillor Meads.
Yeah, thanks for that presentation. Thanks. A couple of points, really. Red Hill Cemetery, what's going to happen when it is completely full?
I assume it will be like many cemeteries throughout the country. It will be there.
No, what I mean is, what are people going to do? Want to be buried?
Right.
Yeah.
Other cemeteries are being developed. Some of them are private cemeteries, and we still do have capacity. Plus, we are looking at expanding, I think it's Carlton Cemetery a little bit, to cope with the extra need.
Oh, okay. Sort of street bins, but we've got some new developments in Calverton, and what they tend to do is, when they're privately managed, they have a bin on the parks that are absolutely tiny, like a little bucket, and they only empty them every 4 weeks, and that's creating a lot of problems, because people, like the Bellway estate, people, that's on the edge of the village, people walk the dogs all the way through the village and then put the dog poo bags in that bin and then walk back again. And it's sort of, they don't see it's sort of segregated, and it's run by a management company. And every time I get onto Michael, he keeps telling me we've got too many bins already. But it is a problem. I mean, the Persimmons estate, there's no street bins at all on that estate. There's like 346 houses, I think. And we've still got one parish councillor who's getting on a bit now, and some residents keep going around emptying Gedling Borough street bins, and we keep telling them not to. And I've been moaning about it for 2.5 years now, and we keep getting told, oh, it's going to be they're going to be monitored more closely, but nothing ever changes. Do you know what I mean? So we end up with bin bags next to all your bins everywhere, full of rubbish.
Sarah did touch on this in an earlier answer, that we are remodelling all of our bins and trying to get some good software to do the system. So I'll hand back to Sarah.
Yeah.
So part of what we'll be doing when we roll out white space for street care will be that we'll be asking every time they empty a bin, and actually Calverton is heavily litter binned, because I've emptied the litter bins in Calverton, and there are a lot.
Yeah, I know.
But what we will be asking the operatives to do is to mark down how full that bin is when they empty it. So is it full, is it overflowing, or actually has it got 2 crisp packets in it? And that will then inform what we need to do when we remodel the locations of those bins. And actually, do they need to be bigger bins if we're only ever going to be able to get there once or twice a week, and it's still not enough? So we're going to try and make that all a bit more sensible, but again, it's not a 5-minute job. It's quite an in-depth piece of work, and it will follow from white space being rolled out to street care. So it's once we've got that data, then we can start make those changes.
Yeah. Last thing, I think last year we managed to get the leaf sweeper in just before Remembrance Sunday. How do we do that again this year?
I'll write it down.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
We'll try and do that.
But yeah, this thing about bins is a big, and on new developments, is a big problem. You know.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you. This isn't a criticism, this is just an idea. We've had a long running problems in Westmore Close in Portchester. with contaminated bins. I counted once after the collection of the green waste, there were 16 contaminated bins left behind. And it's a little bit of council says no has been sort of coming forward, but I had an idea that the bins are basically batched together with the general waste and the recycling bins. I wondered if we could work with human nature. And this is quite important because there's one block where I think 4 recycling bins have been taken away and now they're just down to black bins. So they're losing their capacity for bins. And they also already say they haven't got the capacity that a normal resident would have, a general resident would have. Could we maybe think about working with human nature and put the general waste bins near the entrances to the buildings, or the rear of the buildings, where the rear exit of the building, so that somebody who isn't interested in recycling would just go to the nearest bin. So their waste would go in the general bin. And use the other areas that are further away, and they are some distance away, sometimes 30, 40 feet away from the back doors, and put the recycling bins there. So the people who are motivated to recycle will leave the property, travel that extra distance, put the recycling in the recycling bin. The people who aren't motivated to do that sort of thing would just put it in the general waste. So then there'd be less contamination, rather than we've been banging our heads against a brick wall, I think, for maybe 10 years up there, maybe more. And I just think now is the time to say, okay, we maybe can't change it to the way we want it, but we can maybe make it work a little bit more effectively. That would be my plea anyway.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at. Just tell me the name of the site again, sorry.
It's Westmore Close.
Westmore Close.
I'm happy to meet you up there.
Yeah, I think that would be useful because it's going to be, every site is slightly different and it's got its own. I don't know that site off the top of my head, but it would be good to have a meeting and have a look at that.
I know it's there.
In a following item on the agenda, we're looking at a working group, so some of these things might be good for the group to look at. So I was just going to say, we've had complaints about overflowing dog poo bins in Carlton as well, so I'm glad you're doing a review of them. I mean, I guess it might just antagonise some people, but I wondered if it was worth thinking of some light-hearted, jokey way of putting a sign up saying, if this bin is full, can you take it home with you? I don't know why people think it's better to leave it on the floor next to the bin, but it was just a thought. But thank you very much, Marge, for a very interesting presentation. And I don't know if you want to stay for the discussion we're going to have. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Before that, we've got an update from the Carlton board, and I've already forgotten the name of the person who's doing that. It's Nathan Waugh. Sorry about that.
Thank you, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here this evening to talk to you about the Greater Carlton Plan for Neighbourhoods. My name is Nathan Wall. I'm the Assistant Director for Economic Growth and Regeneration. It's going to be a brief update tonight because we are still on the way to the development, completing the development of our 4-year investment plan and 10-year regeneration plan as part of our Plan for Neighbourhood commitments. But we'll welcome the opportunity to come back in January once those 2 pieces of work have been completed and submitted to MHCLG, and sharing and discussing those plans in fuller detail with you and taking on board your feedback. So for today, it'd be a great opportunity to discuss the progress that we've made throughout this year. So last year, it was a programme known as the Long-Term Plan for Towns, as many of you may know. There was a pause from central government, and in March earlier this year, the new Plan for Neighbourhoods prospectus was published. With that new prospectus, we were made aware that we had to submit a regeneration plan and now 4-year investment plan to MHCLG by the 28th of November. We worked with a team of programme management consultants, Mutual Ventures, last year on the long-term plan for towns, and with the fantastic work that they did, supporting us with our consultation and draft 3-year investment plan and 10-year vision. We re-procured them to support us and the board with the development of our new objectives. In April, after having the privilege of working with Sir John Peace as our chair for the long-term plan for towns, he had stepped down with the development of the new board, and we were delighted to appoint David Stewart. David has been a governor of various schools for 40 years, and he's got over 50 years experience of working with young people and children with severe learning difficulties. He's been a fantastic ambassador for community development and support, and he's done a fantastic job supporting us with our board and our commitments. In April 25, we confirmed, as per our MHCLG initial requirements, we confirmed our board membership and proposals to alter the plan's place boundaries as part of, again, our initial inquiries, requirements. The boundary change that we submitted was altered to include the Netherfield Lagoons, Stoke Bardolph, Mapley Local Centre, Lamley Lane Recreational Ground, and Gedling Country Park. The motivation around those changes was to enhance our green space opportunities, our recreational and retail opportunities too. So this information is available on our website. I will also make it available by sending the presentation out to everybody following today's presentation. But to give a bit of an indication, I can appreciate it might be hard to read the text from where you are, but the red line is the original boundary that MHCLG had provided for us for the Carlton long-term plan for towns, and the yellow line is the proposed boundary that we have put forward to MHCLG and since had approved for the Greater Carlton plan. So our board membership is comprised of a wealth of experience from key stakeholders across the community who are going to give a strong voice in our decision making for how that fund will be spent. And it's been a fantastic experience working with the board members, going back into last year from the long-term plan for towns. There's been some fantastic ideas and recommendations put forward, and some real passionate views about how we can best support the community of Greater Carlton. So some of the activity that's taken place this year since moving from the long-term plan to the plan for neighbourhoods. So early in the year, we worked with Mutual Ventures to create a working group for the board, where we reviewed, we reviewed and refined our vision. We reviewed our investment priorities from the long-term plan, and the final list of interventions that were put forward as part of last year's work. We then looked at refining those to suit the new Plan for Neighbourhoods prospectus, and that work was informed by MHCLG data, last year's consultation, any recent council consultations, so taking on board the view of residents, and then relevant recent strategies, not just from within Gedling Borough Council, but from also key stakeholders and organisations across the region. That was followed by a targeted stakeholder engagement and key consultation with stakeholders to help shape our themes, proposals, and interventions that would form and will form our 10-year regeneration plan and 4-year investment plan. As part of the board working this year, what we have done is we've revised and agreed the priorities for the Greater Carlton Plan for Neighbourhoods and what our ambitions are going to be over the next 10 years. It has been agreed by the board that they will focus on skills and learning, youth and aspirations, health and well-being, local economy and business growth, safety and feelings of safety. So a number of considerations were made as these priorities were put together, and it was largely based on a consideration of not just addressing the needs within the borough from our consultation and engagement, but also addressing the gaps and making sure that we were trying to support areas and interventions that didn't have support within the borough and at this time from other sources. So with the development of the 4-year investment plan and the 10-year vision, we will look forward to being able to give you further detail in January. It will be released in November once it's been completed. But what you can expect to see within that plan are areas of support for community organisations, the improvement of green spaces, shopfront improvement grants, improvements to sports facilities, business support and advice, feasibility studies across a number of areas, community learning and development, local centre and High Street improvements, improvements to heritage assets and parks, and well-being and social cohesion projects. So to give a bit of an insight in terms of where we are with the programme. So we are going to be meeting with the board at the end of October to submit a final draft of our 4-year investment plan and 10-year regeneration plan. Once those have been submitted to MHCLG at the end of November, we'll then go through a stage of preparing for delivery, which will take us up to April 26. And in that period, we'll be looking at the proposals that have been put forward, building specifications for year 1 activities, and going through relevant procurement processes to ensure we're able to start making an impact within year 1 and from early in April. To summarise some key dates, so October the 30th is the final board. November the 20th will be a special cabinet meeting. We will seek cabinet approval on the 10-year regeneration plan and 4-year investment plan. The MHCLG submission date is the 28th of November. We hope to come back to see yourselves in January 26 to provide a fuller update on what we've submitted and our plans for the future of the programme. And then from April 26, we commence programme delivery. Further information can be found on our website. There's a link here that everybody will be able to access once this gets sent out. We will be providing regular updates on our website in terms of activity and board decisions. There's also information on our site around the Plan for Neighbourhood guidance, and other information around the prospectus. So thank you. If there's any questions, I'll try to support them.
Thank you. Can I just ask, has that website been updated? Because I had some people asking me about where they could see the minutes, and I directed them to the council's website. And then when I looked, I saw that the last minutes were from over a year ago. So I just wondered how frequently that was updated.
They should be updated promptly. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll raise that internally, and we will ensure that is as it should be. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've got Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. 2 questions, if I may. Great to see this finally coming to us, so I'm pleased about that. Can we just clarify what involvement local members have had on putting forward ideas for the RP? I'm trying to pick up the abbreviations here, on the RP, because this is the first we've heard of it. My ward's included in the new area, so I wonder what local member engagement there's been. I think I know the answer, nothing, but I just want that clarifying. And scrutiny, for me, it really grates me that you, not you personally, but you've said 2 or 3 times there that we'll come back to scrutiny after the plan's been approved in November. Well, that's absolutely pointless, because then we don't have any feedback because the decision's already been made. And I think this council needs to work on that better, of how we do pre-decision scrutiny. Tonight is the first time we've heard about this since the Conservative government announced it in 24. And yet we've got no detail on what's actually going to happen in each ward because Cabinet haven't approved it. Well, Cabinet can approve it after we've had a say, and we just need to look at how we do that, Fran and others, on pre-decision scrutiny. That, I'm not getting at you, by the way, so it's just in general we need to be looking at influencing pre-decision scrutiny, particularly when it includes investment in our wards. The second question I've got, so the first question is about member engagement. The second question is, what measures will be in place through the board or through Cabinet to prevent double spending? And what I mean by that is Gedling Country Park has received over £1.4 million SIL funding for a car park extension, for a visitor centre, recently, 100 grand of SIL money for a car park extension last year, yet now the new boundary includes that. And Stoke Bardolph, that I represent, has had zilch investment from this council for 5 or 6 years at least, and is now included in the new boundary. So what mechanisms are in place when you look at allocating funding where you think, well, actually, Gedling Country Park's had nearly 2 million quid, or 1.5 million quid, but Stoke Bardolph hasn't had any, let's invest it there. What's in place to prevent that?
Thank you. So to answer your first question, we could speak to our programme consultants to get a detailed breakdown of who has taken part in consultation, but there was a summer consultation last year where it was open to public and for anybody to take part and submit their views on how the fund should be spent and what the needs of the plan should address. No, that was under the agreed. We agreed the new plan for neighbourhoods boundary quite soon into the long-term plan for towns last year, so that we just resubmitted that boundary proposal as part of the new plan for neighbourhoods prospectus. So yeah, there's been no change there. So we can check with our programme consultants, programme management team who have managed the consultants consultation, and we've also done a targeted engagement campaign this summer as well, so we can look at what findings came out of that and what specific members may have taken part in that. Sorry, and your second question?
Can I just, I mean, that's partly why people were asking me about how they could access the minutes, because they'd submitted ideas, but they've not received any feedback or information at all. And they'd also heard the boundary had been extended. So obviously they were worried that the ideas they put in wouldn't get a look in now the boundary had been extended.
I completely appreciate the feedback there, and we will look into the minutes as to why they haven't been published, but they have all been recorded, so we'll ensure that they are publicly available. So that's...
I suppose so it's more agreeing with Councillor Smith that, I mean, he's saying people haven't been consulted with, and I suppose I'm saying, and the people who have put in submissions haven't had any feedback.
We didn't factor in a formal feedback process as part of the submissions. You see, with the scale of the consultation, there wasn't any mechanism to provide updates on the outcome of those proposals. We just welcomed the submissions and took them into consideration as part of the development of the 4-year investment plan and 10-year regeneration plan.
And sorry to interrupt, not to labour the point, and I totally agree with the chairman, not to labour the point, but this is the first time this council, the members who are elected by the residents of this borough, have heard about this for 2 years, okay? And then it's going to, the plan, which is drafted, is going to be approved by the Cabinet in November, I think your timescale said, and members of this committee have not seen it. I just think we've missed a trick, and it's not your fault. I think we've missed a trick, and it's unfair for us as councillors who represent the people not to have had input in that through officially seeing the plans and then saying, oh yeah, that's a good idea, not have we thought about this, what was the feedback on that through the residents? Do you know what I mean? We've missed the boat, and I think that's an unfortunate misstep of the council, not your doing. I just think it's an unfortunate misstep. The second point I made is about double funding. So Gedling Country Park, for example, is included in the new boundary, but has received 1.5 million from this council over the past few years. What mechanisms are in place to prevent that getting even more and other areas getting nothing? That was the second question.
So, Councillor Smith, I'd perhaps like to come in and address a couple of the points that you've raised around public consultation and the way in which this process has operated. So it's been very much community-led. So the council are not actually the decision maker. The council are the accountable body. And what that means is that we need to ensure that the correct processes are followed, that the programme is operated in accordance with the guidance which has been released by the government. So in terms of the council membership on the board, so Nathan showed a slide earlier on, and what that details is that there are 13 voting members on that board. One of those voting members is a Gedling Borough councillor. So that was previously the leader of the council, John Clark. That voting member is now Councillor Jim Creamer. So we have one voting member on the board. The prospectus is quite clear that this is community-led. So under the long-term plans for towns, in the summer of 2024, as Nathan had said, there was a full consultation exercise which was undertaken. The MPs were very active at that time. So Tom Randall, he was the MP at that time, and he was actively promoting the consultation. He was actually a member of the Greater Colton Town Board as well. So there was significant consultation undertaken in 2024. We received an announcement, it was around October, end of October 2024, following the new government, that the programme would be retained, but it would be reformed. And as per the information on the slide earlier on, earlier this year, the new prospectus was published, which the programme is very similar to long-term plan for towns. Some of the priorities have slightly changed. So what the board determined is that rather than undertaking a full reconsultation exercise, that there will be some targeted engagement with those community groups who had previously submitted proposals under the long-term plan for towns. The programme has been incredibly tight in terms of that time frame, so that we can ensure that projects are delivered from the 1st of October 2026. So, the time frame has been incredibly tight, but there has been significant engagement. And the reason that, Cabinet haven't been involved in this previously, and there haven't been previous reports which have been submitted to this council, is because it's community-led. So there's a requirement for the local MP to be a member of the board. That was a requirement under the long-term plan for towns. But this is very separate from the priorities of the council. So these priorities that you've seen on the slides, they're not necessarily council priorities. These are priorities which have been determined by the board, having regard to the consultation. But as I say, they need not necessarily align to the council priorities. And the only role of the council is to ensure that the correct processes are followed, rather than the council actually making decisions on those priorities and those themes. The guidance is clear that this is community-led, and there's some clear guidance around the membership of the board. So I hope that information just provides some further clarification to those concerns that you had, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis and then Councillor Duncan. Okay, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. This is worrying because I'm finding myself agreeing with Councillor Smith.
Join the club.
Yeah, delighted to see this actually come to the Scrutiny Committee at last. It has been a black hole since the whole thing started. It's been very difficult to find out what's going on. I think we've hit upon what the real problem is that it's not democratic. There's no democratically elected representation. It was, well, only a little bit. So it's a quango. I don't understand why the boundaries have been extended. It now includes Mapley, and it's huge now. Calling it Greater Carlton is a massive misnomer. Barely any of it's Carlton. Expanding it so far is going to water down any funds that would have been heading towards Carlton. When I first saw these plans, I thought, well, that would be good. Carlton needs some investment. But now I'm very concerned about where the money will actually be spent and whether Carlton will see any of it, or whether or not there might even be a further expansion to include Arnold and we'll never see any of it. Councillor Smith is very right that we won't get a chance to see anything before it goes to Cabinet, so we'll only see it when the decision has been made. I'm not impressed at all.
So the programme was actually, it's a government programme, so we're operating the process in accordance with the Plan for Neighbourhoods guidance. So this has been operated entirely in accordance with the guidance, and it is operating outside of Gedling Borough Council. Our role is that we're the accountable body, and we have one member of the council on the board. And as I say, that is in accordance with the guidance. There is a local MP on the board, and there was the former Conservative MP who previously sat on the board, and that MP was on the board at the time when we undertook the extensive public consultation in 2024. Just in terms of the guidance, I think it'd be helpful if you could bring the map back up on the screen, Nathan. So the actual plan that determined the extents of the Greater Carlton area, that was determined by the previous Conservative government, and that was drawn tightly round the urban area. So all the board have agreed is that the open spaces surrounding that urban area, for example, Netherfield Lagoons, Gedling Country Park, should be included within the boundary. So in terms of the urban area, the only change which has been made by the board is to include the Mapley Local Centre. So the boundary as initially proposed by the former Conservative government, it almost included the Mapley Local Centre. So it included the service yard in part of the Mapley Local Centre, but it didn't include the actual shop units. So what the board did is they agreed that there will be a very small change in terms of the urban area to include the whole of the Mapley Local Centre, but it hasn't included new residential areas. The enlargement to the boundary, as I say, has just included areas of open space to maximise the opportunities to deliver projects in accordance with the guidance. But that boundary change has been agreed by the board. It was initially agreed in 2024, and then when the board was reconvened this year, they again confirmed that they were content to enlarge the boundary.
Okay, thank you. Sorry if we gave you a hard time, but we do look forward to you coming back in January.
Thank you. I look forward to returning. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Meads, sorry.
Hi, thanks, Nathan. I think we've emailed before but not spoke or anything. Yeah, I've got a bit of a problem, really. It seems sort of favouritism all the time, and I noticed that Lamley Lane Rec's going to be on it again, and Nathan Kenny's on this board. So does that mean they're going to get another load of money spent on that football site, like they did last year?
We've got a strict conflict of interest process that we've gone through to ensure that decisions will be made fair and board members aren't putting anything forward that they shouldn't or acting in any way that they shouldn't. So, we're going through fair processes to ensure that the funding is spent correctly.
And just going off a slight tangent, but it's on the same theme as Councillor Smith. You know, the UK Prosperity Fund, we thought there was nearly 1.2 million that everybody could have a fair shout at. And then it got decided at a cabinet meeting. It never came out to consultation as far as I know, and it's the same sort of thing again.
With the UK SPF extension for this year, the proposals were internally put together in terms of the priorities that we were going to spend that extension on. They were approved and agreed to by Cabinet, but they weren't put together by Cabinet. They were put together internally.
Oh, I know,
with council priorities. I completely appreciate what you're saying there, but with the year 4 extension and everything that had to go into the approval of that fund and then the procurement of the proposals that were put together, we had to act incredibly fast to align that allocation with priorities and projects for this year's delivery. But I completely take on board your feedback.
So, you know, if all this money gets spent in this area, plus the UK's prosperity funds mainly being spent south of Arnold Leisure Centre, say, will other areas get a bigger share of anything else or not?
With it for the Carlton Plan for Neighbourhoods Fund?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's when you're spending all this money in this Carlton area.
Within the boundary,
and then the UK Prosperity Fund, apart
Councillor
from...
Meads, so this is money that's come from the government for council, so...
I know that. I know what I mean is...
It's not a question or answer that he can give in this item, is it?
So perhaps if I could just add some further clarification. UK Shared Prosperity funding, that could be spent borough-wide, and that was for the District Council to determine how that money is expended. So you may disagree with the decision which was made by the Cabinet, which has set out how that funding will be expended. There may need to be some changes in terms of that funding profile, and there'll be a further decision going forward in relation to how that funding is expended. In terms of the Greater Carlton Town funding, it can only be expended within the extent of the Greater Carlton Town boundary. And as I've said, the District Council, the Borough Council, is not we're the accountable body, but it doesn't have to align with our priorities.
Yeah.
So
okay.
can I suggest if you want to ask about that, when we talk about what we want on the programme, that can be an area that you want to look at.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Councillor Smith.
I fully agree with you, Chair, about the minutes, because I'd previously looked for those. Just referring back to the local representation, I'm pleased that Jim's there, even though the website still says it's John Clark. The 5 sets of minutes, and our other representative, of course, is our MP, Michael Payne. The 5 sets of minutes that's on the website show that Michael Payne attended one of the 5 meetings. Can we have some reassurance that whilst we have got local representation, actually these local representatives are actually turning up?
It's not correct. So Councillor Payne's attended a number of meetings. He was at the last meeting, which took place on Friday. He's also joined, when he's not joined in person, he has joined virtually. So the meetings are either held on a Thursday night, where Councillor Payne has attended remotely at a number of meetings, and on the meetings on a Friday night he's attended in person. But that will be clarified. We'll ensure that the minutes are published, and that will confirm who's attended.
Yeah, I was referring to the only minutes that are available, which are the ones on the website, not ones that happened subsequently.
Yeah, and as I say, please accept our apologies. We'll ensure that the website is updated as quickly as possible. We'll update that website tomorrow.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Right, I'm really conscious of the time, so we'll probably need to curtail a bit to try and get completed. So the next item is the review of fly tipping and litter management report.
So there are a few bits of this that we've already covered through Councillor Palin's presentation and the kind of subsequent questions that we've had. So I'll try and rattle through as quickly as I can. So I joined Gedling in January, and some days feel like I've been here forever, and then another day something will jump out and catch me and I'll think, oh, I don't know actually how that works here. So it's still interesting, definitely. But there's a lot to do. So one of the first things I did was put in a restructure for the management arrangements across the kind of depot-based services, so fleet, waste, parks and street care. We've got a new management team now in place, of which Andy is obviously part. Really pleased with the appointments that we've made there. It's always good, I think, to get some new ideas in, but we've got a really well experienced, really knowledgeable management team in place now. So we will be making big changes. So I was first in post in January. Andy joined us 7 weeks ago, and Julie, who's the assistant director, joined us about 4 weeks before that. So she's probably on about month 3 now. So it is a very new team, but we all know where we're going, and we're going in the right direction. That has caused some change, obviously, at the depot, which people have been receptive to in slightly different ways. But actually, we've also rolled out the white space at the same time, which the crews have taken to really, really well. I couldn't be prouder of them, to be honest. They've done a great job. I know Marge was there as well when we were talking to them about it, when we were first showing them how it works, and they were having a little go with the tablets. They've done an amazing job of adopting it and picking it up as well as they have done. Parks and street care we've already talked about. That'll be the kind of next side. We'll be looking at what we can do in terms of structures. We've got a couple of vacancies in that area at the moment that we're looking at. How do we use those vacancies going forward? Do we want to recruit what we've got, or do we want to change it slightly to make it more to help us operationally, to see if we can do something a little bit better? Simpler recycling, the first phase of that, this is government legislation that's changing around what different businesses and households have to recycle. So far, this is all about businesses of over 10 employees. So you will have seen the stuff in staff kitchens and in members' kitchens. And that is now going to be rolled out to smaller businesses next year. And then following that, there'll be food waste coming for households. There's also a project going on within the depot. So you might have seen that the big shed, the big long shed down the side, is started to be demolished. So there have been some structural issues with that. But that will allow us to reconfigure how we lay out the parking and everything in the yard. So it'll give us a bit more space, hopefully a bit less congested, clearer markings. It's going to be much more effective and much better laid out. White space we've talked about quite a lot already. the key thing that we haven't mentioned, with Dan sat next to me, is about that in future it will integrate with the website. So when we get the new website, if you put in a missed bin report on a Saturday afternoon, then it will drop into Whitespace system, so it'll be sat there waiting for the crew on Monday morning, whereas at the moment there is an amount of double keying that goes on. So while you can report it on a Saturday, it relies on somebody in customer services then translating that into a worksheet on Monday morning. So that will speed up that whole process. Obviously, challenges, there are several still. We're still working to bring down the sickness levels, particularly across the front line, services based at the depot. Churn of agency staff does make it difficult. So while the information is on Whitespace, it is helpful if you've got at least one person in the crew who knows the area and knows where they're going. Working through that with lots of support from our HR colleagues. There's also a wide-scale training programme that's needed across the depot. It's something that I think has got a little bit out of date in some areas, so we need to do that, and we need to try and build that into how we're going to improve our services and just kind of modernise the way that we think a little bit. New build properties, obviously Mike and Nathan have gone now, but they're always building new houses, so it means we've got more bins to empty, more streets to clean, more litter bins. So it's a constant challenge for us in how we build that into our rounds and how we deliver services to all of our residents. Fly tipping in particular, there are some stats in there. We are working with Public Protection, who do the enforcement for us, to look at how those stats are recorded. I think there might be an issue with how we've been recording it previously, so we just need to bottom that out. But obviously we'll tidy that up and make sure that that's absolutely correct going forward, so that the data is all comparable and it's consistently recorded. And then the specific questions that have been raised by the committee at a previous meeting, the answers are there. I don't know who submitted which question, but hopefully the responses are included in the report. And then the recommendations from the report are to note the report, which I'm assuming everyone's read, and to form a working group to look more specifically at fly tipping, litter and waste management.
Thank you. So I know people had a chance to ask questions earlier, so I'm assuming there's no further questions. Of course, Councillor Smith.
Obviously. Just to note that, interesting that we asked for a fly tipping report, and of an 8-page document, only 3 paragraphs refer to fly tipping, but hopefully in the working group we can look at that, specifically on the data analysis that determines how many times we go back to a site via the cost analysis of installing prevention measures like CCTV. That's what we need to see in the working group, and look forward to that commencing, Chair. Thank you.
So do we have to formally agree that we're setting up a working group? So all those in favour? Thank you. Any against or abstentions? So we will set up a group. Are you going to send something round, Ben, after the meeting?
Yeah, we'll circulate an email to all members just to sort of iron out dates for when we'll commence the working group.
Thank you. So are we on to the last? Sorry. Thank you very much for attending, all of you. And it was really informative, and I can tell you this is the longest meeting we've had for a long time, so you've obviously engaged people in the issues that you've raised. So, Fran, over to you. Item 9.
Thank you, Chair, and I will keep it brief. The information in relation to risk for Q1 is clearly set out, and I think particularly in Appendix 1 from page 35 onwards, which gives you that corporate risk scorecard, so you can see how risk has tracked through that first quarter. Just by way of summary, there has been quite a lot of fluctuation in risk in Q1 across various categories. So we have had an increase in risk areas in relation to capacity and service delivery, reputation and risk, and service standards and performance. Now, all those 3 risk rises are heavily linked to what we've been talking about throughout the evening. So performance and capacity within waste services. It's been referenced repeatedly. We've got high levels of sickness in the department, and that has massively impacted service delivery in Q1. And you'll see when we move on to the performance report as well in relation to Q1, we're well aware that the number of complaints, the volume of complaints in Q1 in relation to missed bins, etc., had a significant impact on the council's reputation around that service as well, hence the increase in risk in that area. And finally, again, the increase in risk around service standards and performance is linked back to that issue. But you can see within, you've heard it repeatedly tonight, but it's also within the appendix, the actions, the mitigation that's being put in place to try and improve performance in that area. In other changes, there has been a decrease in the risk level around health and safety at work, which is positive, and that's again in part down to improved assessment of risks, particularly in our park services. So thank you to our new manager already, who's looking at mitigations in that area. Also, a decrease in risk around contractual partnerships. In Q1, this is due to the successful implementation of the new procurement function. So we now have an in-house procurement and contract manager, and we have Orbis Procurement working with us as a shared service provider. That service is running well. We've had some key procurements going out to the market, so a slightly reduction in risk in that area. Finally, if members have any specific questions, one more reduction in risk is around the corporate risk on projects. Now, again, this is reflected through the performance from Q1. You can see that all the milestones on the annual delivery plan for Q1 were completed, which means that, you know, project-wise, we are on track. So that's really positive. So the risk level around projects has reduced. As I say, if members have any specific questions on risk areas, as you can see, all risks are scored against our corporate risk appetite, which sits at moderate. Whenever risks are flagging above that level, so that's number 4. If they're higher than that, then we need to ensure that there are mitigations being put in place to try and reduce that risk level, and that's set out within the action section of the report. Thank you.
Any questions on the report? No, so we just had to note that, and then item 9, or have you done that at the same time?
Thank you, Chair. So the Gedling Plan Q1 25-26 performance report sets out the data on performance for the council at the end of Q1, which represents the period from April to June 25. There are 52 actions included in the annual delivery plan spanning 6 themes. Milestones are attached to each of these actions, and as Fran just mentioned, the number of milestones due to being completed in Q1 was 30 and the completion rate was 100%, which is really good news. More information on the Q1 milestones are available in Appendix B. With regards to the performance indicators, there are 30 performance indicators which are monitored on a quarterly basis. In Q1, 12 of these indicators either met or exceeded their target. 8 were unfortunately below target. 7 indicators were for tracking purposes only, and for 3 indicators, we currently don't have the data available. The table in paragraph 2.7 shows examples of some particularly positive performance. I'll not go through them all, but I'll just pull out a couple. So percentage of business rates collected, the collection rates were over 29% against a target of 27.2%. The percentage of major planning applications that were processed within 13 weeks was again 100% for Q1 against a target of 92%. And the number of rented households with health and safety hazards that have been remediated following the council's intervention, given the importance of these actions, it's been excellent to see that against a target of 18, the number that have been remediated was 43. The reasons for the 8 indicators that have been missed in Q1 are set out in paragraph 2.8. I'm just going to highlight a couple of those that were higher than expected, we missed the target by higher than expected margin. So the percentage of customers that are satisfied with overall customer services, overall customer services was 76% against a target of 94%. I don't think it'll be any surprise given some of the other areas we've covered tonight, but of the 37 surveys that was received, the 9 negative responses were attributed to the waste service. I was going to go through some of the details, but some of that's been covered, so I won't need to go as in depth with that. Also, the processing times for housing benefits and council tax, both for new claims and change of circumstances, have fallen below target. This is mainly around staffing resources in the benefits team. Although sufficient to cover for the current level of demand, it hasn't been sufficient to cover for annual leave and sickness. There's also been some software issues, and all of this has gone towards us falling below target in that area. Work is underway to build resilience in the revenues and welfare team, and software updates are also being looked at to enable an improvement in his performance figures moving forward. So regarding compliments, complaints and MP's letter, paragraph 2.9 provides a summary of the position, and these continue to be reviewed regularly by the senior leadership team. As has already been mentioned throughout the evening, SLT has acknowledged the notable rise in complaints during Q1 and through ongoing monitoring has identified the primary factors contributing to this trend. The majority of the increase is attributable to the waste services, and we've covered most of the work that's been done to try and remediate some of that and the work that's been going on by the team and senior staff, so I'll not go back over them details. Moving on to achievements, so paragraph 2.10 details some of the achievements from Q1. So we successfully delivered the May 2025 election. We're all aware of the considerable effort and time that goes into this process. There was the launch of the Leisure Transformation microsite in June 2025, and that was providing 24/7 access for residents. And the first phases of the implementation of our new customer relationship management and waste management systems that we've heard about are in progress and planned and on track for delivery. And these are really important projects that will deliver both improvements to customer experience and efficiency moving forward. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Thank you. That was very comprehensive. Any questions on the performance report? Can I just check the MP letters? Are they letters you received from the two MPs?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Right. So we'll move on to the final item then, which is the programme. We've already heard that because the DWP didn't come today, they'll be added to the November agenda. And are there any other items people want the group to consider? Yep. Councillor Creamer.
Yeah, after the report of the Carlton Towns Board, perhaps we could have it in January when some decisions should have actually been made and give them time to actually formulate it. So just a suggestion, sometime soon rather than later.
I think he offered to do that, didn't he? So that needs adding on as well. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, just a thought, and she needs obviously consulting. I'm wondering whether Councillor Hollingsworth will be well enough to attend that meeting and prepare for it, or whether that should be put back.
I've already spoken to Councillor Pearson, and she's happy to step in should the need arise. Okay.
Okay, so
just one other thing to note. The work programme says that it's to be confirmed for Citizens Advice Bureau. They have confirmed that they will be attending. All right.
So I am therefore going to close the meeting. Thank you. If you're able to stay for a very short